It's only the second day of the new year, 2024. The biggest story of this year will be about defending democracy. You heard me right. I'm getting on the mainstream media bandwagon and saying it just like CNN is, that defending democracy will be extremely important this year. In fact, it could very well be everything. But the mainstream media are telling you that in order to defend democracy, we must stop Donald Trump from becoming president again by any means necessary. Now, does any of that sound democratic to you? No, of course not, because it is not. And the left, as well as the ironically named Democrat Party, are trying to end democracy and stop the will of the people by any means necessary, using America's legal system in order to do it. First, by trying to imprison the former President Trump on bogus charges in order to stop him from even running for the office. MSNBC does a great job of showing you what this ridiculous argument entails. They say Trump is a fascist, and in order to stop him from becoming a dictator, they must put him in jail. They must lock him up. Listen.
How much can you leverage the passions and hate of a minority to control a political atmosphere? Now, we see it in the small way. Fluoridation has been an issue. McCarthy is another one. But this guy, Trump, he wins the sweepstakes. He or Bannon or somebody has read enough to mimic these bad past movements, and it has compromised America. Now, I agree with you. The numbers are still good. And what we see is a shift against the money that they need to continue the fight.
Yeah.
I mean, just today we saw. And
I'll jump in. I'll jump in to say, John, that as you call the numbers good, my observation is that the numbers are still pretty anti-felons as presidents, which I think is a very low bar and a reasonable one.
All right. And now they've realized that strategy they just laid out is backfiring. They're trying to take him off the ballot so you can't even vote for him at all. He's so dangerous, we don't even want you to vote for him. Again, does that sound democratic to you? First, Colorado tried it, and now Maine is too. During the Christmas holiday season last week, in case you missed it, the Secretary of State there, Shanna Bellows, ruled Donald Trump is not eligible to be on the ballot because she decided he is not qualified all by herself. And here's how she defended that strange decision. Listen.
The oath I swore to uphold the Constitution comes first and foremost. The weight of the evidence brought forward under Maine law in the Section 336 challenge that was brought made it clear that Mr. Trump was aware of the tinder he laid in a multi-month efforts to challenge the legitimacy of the 2020 election. And then, in an unprecedented and tragic series of events, chose to light a match. It became clear that January 6th was an attack not only on the Capitol, on government officials, but also an attack on the rule of law, that it was an insurrection, and that the U.S. Constitution does not tolerate an assault on our government, on the foundations of our government, and that Maine election law and the Constitution required, indeed obligated me to act.
Oh, and here's that same Secretary of State from the state of Maine, Shanna Bellows, smiling with her good pal, Joe Biden. I'm sure this has nothing to do with any of this at all, of course. I'm sure it's all on the up and up. And the mainstream media is going right along with all of this anti-democratic process stuff. Listen.
A Secretary of State, even if she is a Democrat, the Colorado Supreme Court, the January 6th Congressional Committee, all of these, positions of authority are putting in writing that they do believe he was not only responsible for what happened that day and started it, but he fanned the flames of January 6th.
Anything like that coming from an official source is not great for him. He knows that. His folks know that. It's not good for him long term, I should say. It's not good for him, certainly, if he is kept off the ballots. That is just logistically problematic. But while this is fuel for him in a Republican primary, if he is the nominee in a general election, this is just objectively not a helpful fact set. It is not. It will be used in ads. It will be used on mailers. It will be said at Democratic town halls over and over and over again. And there will be officialdom to point to saying that Trump did it. This is what didn't happen with the Senate trial for impeachment. This is what didn't happen for almost 2 years from the DOJ. And now there is something that is, quasi-official, even if it's coming from, folks who they're arguing are partisan. It's just not helpful to him.
All right, so let's just flip the script. Say Donald Trump was president right now and Joe Biden was running against him, and Trump's DOJ tried to put Biden in jail and throw a bunch of lawsuits and charges at him. And a bunch of Republican secretaries of state and state Supreme Court started removing Joe Biden off the ballots around the country. Do you think the media would be reacting this way, or would they be screaming, dictator, dictator, at the top of their lungs? And I think you know the answer to that, of course. It'd be going on 24/7. They'd have special programming for it all day long, around the clock. And that's why the Democrats and the media will try desperately all year long to convince you that undermining democracy is what's best for democracy.